Right, so this morning I walked into the office, fresh from sitting in a field listening to bands and drinking more than your dad after the divorce, and I was met with Peter Austin. Now, Peter is a lovely man. I've been to his house, we've cooked dinner, but I knew that something was up. Something wrong. A mischievous smile was plastered across his face, which meant one of two things. Either he'd finally found a way to make more bends for his love cubbyhole, or he'd got a list in mind for me, which would no doubt piss a lot of you off. Well, seeing as I see no extra wispy blonde nerds around here, it's got to be the latter. So dust off your nostalgia goggles, strap them on tight, and let me blow them right off your fucking cow-eyed faces. With this in mind, I'm JulesWhatCulture.com, and these are 8 classic video games that have aged horribly. Oh dear. And before you start furiously searching for your caps lock button to berate me, I'm not saying that all these games are bad, at all in fact, but upon reflection, they've just not stood the test of time. That said, let's get spicy. Number 8, Mortal Kombat. Now, Mortal Kombat in its current state is a thing of bloody bone-breaking beauty. MKXL is a fantastic game, balanced to near perfection, and is so full of content that it's fit to burst, and often does. But when you trundle all the way back to MK1, things hold up about as well as your spine after a Sub-Zero fatality. The fighting is super clunky, with special moves feeling awkward to execute, and fights usually boil down to uppercut spamming. At the time, it shocked audiences with its gore, but upon returning, it's got little to offer outside of novelty noises and what is now barely even a bucket full of blood. I mean, I can squeeze more out of a stray cat than this game can. Number 7, Mega Man Legends. I loved this game. There was so much charm to it, from its awesome art style to its funny dialogue and its engaging mission structure. I say loved though, because that's how I felt about Mega Man Legends right up until I played it again recently. Now my thoughts on this title are as follows. Oh my god, this is so ugly! Why does he move too slowly and too quickly at the same time? How is that even possible? Why does this camera hate me so fucking much? Ah, well, at least the dialogue is still good. For the most part, anyway. Number 6, Grand Theft Auto 3. When you played GTA 3 for the first time as a wee bairn, your reaction was probably something of pure joy, suddenly followed by a degree of pain as your mother belted you round the ear for playing such filth. Nowadays, if you return to the world of Liberty City, you'll find a sparsely populated world with blocky textures and a level of grime to the visuals that would make Fecky jealous. There's one for my UK boys out there. Now, there is no doubt that this was the founding father of seamless open worlds and was utterly groundbreaking in its prime, but much like your actual father, this is now a far cry from glory and should probably be sent home now that it shit itself in its much more beefier offspring's presence. Number 5, Banjo-Kazooie. No, I don't want to hate on this one. Why are you making me do this list? Okay, fine. If I was to level some ire at one of the greatest platforming games on the N64, it's that if you compare the likes of Mario 64 to Banjo-Kazooie, you start to realize that when it comes to level design, Mario is far, far superior. What I mean by this is that in relative terms, the world of Mario 64 felt organic and designed to make exploration a part of the adventure, but BJKZ on the other hand can make it feel like the levels are designed in a way that forces you to cover every nook and cranny to collect the overwhelming amount of things, and that isn't as fun. And you feel very aware of the archaic design choices when you compare it to today's platforming standards. You know what? I feel really dirty shitting on this one. Number 4, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Okay, now I feel a little bit more justified. Have any of you actually gone back to Tony Hawk's 1 recently? Well, if so, and you came up and told me that you enjoyed anything other than the soundtrack, I would call you a liar to your f***ing trash face, because loving this game after knowing how much Tony Hawk's 2 and 3 did for the franchise is near impossible. No manualing, no reverts, and a turning circle which would make the Titanic look f***ing nippy. Pro Skater 1 is not a treat for the soul, nor your nostalgia. Now, don't get me wrong, I am so glad that this exists, and gave birth to the once fantastic franchise, but my god, this is more of a chore than trying to get me to stop talking about myself. You're welcome. Number 3, Tomb Raider. Everyone and their mummy, get it, Tomb, will say that they loved Tomb Raider 1, myself included. What with all the posy vibes that the game gave off and all of the groundbreaking 3D work that went into its construction. However, there does seem to be a bit of a disconnect between many people's nostalgia and the reality of playing Tomb Raider in this day and age. If we're honest, looking at it now, the game is actually really messy and frustratingly difficult in places thanks to an often bonk control scheme. Back in the day, this was akin to the Indiana Jones games that we all wanted, but upon returning, this is almost an exercise in frustration as you battle against Lara's tank on ice controls and levels which often feel disjointed and confusing. Number 2, Lego Island. Okay, so you might not believe me, and trust me, I wouldn't either with the spurious shit I've been reading out from this list so far, but Lego Islands was lit as f***, yo! Or at least, I remember it being lit as f***, yo! Mainly because it was Lego and you could do all sorts of inane bullshit to pass the time, you know, like you do in Minecraft. Plus, the song Brick by Brick is what got me into bands like Jardin de la Croix, the Physics House Band, and Death Pedals. I kid, of course, but goddamn was that a good song. But then you rub the youth from your eyes and you're left with a horrible-looking mess which resembles the lifestyles of pretty much all of us here at What Culture. Empty, ugly, and just painful to interact with. And number 1, GoldenEye. This is probably the one that's going to set the comments on fire. Yes, GoldenEye was one of the best party games of the decade, its character roster still trumps many modern titles, and the sound design was champion. But if you put aside those wonderful memories and try your hardest to look at the game objectively, you'll see, though you hate to admit it, that GoldenEye is an old and decrepit shooter. Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, Quake, they're all older and they all work better. Their aiming systems, their slick speed, and even their level designs can trump this game. We might have racked up hundreds of hours of playtime in GoldenEye, but if you're honest with yourself, you'd struggle to do that today. Now again, I'm not saying it's bad, but maybe this one is best to put out to pasture. And that's our list. Got any more games that don't stand the test of time? Well, let me know about them in the comments section below. And why not swing by whatculture.com for more news and articles like this every goddamn day. As always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome, and I'll speak to you soon.